That's right.
Dr. Rajim Prasad.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to take a call on part one, and I do so with a lot of sadness, Mr. Chairman, because of my historical links to the Families Commission as its inaugural Chief Commissioner. And I want to come to talk about some of the clauses in quite some detail, but I do want to thank my colleagues first for the acknowledgement of some of the work the Commission did when I was there, and in fact two in particular, the paid parental leave work and the work on elder abuse, both seminal pieces of work. And as far as the paid parental leave work was concerned, it's the best work I believe the Commission did, reviewing the literature, looking at the international work on it, developing a 13-month plan, a 7-year transition program, economic modelling, and for each of the financial years, the amount it would take was all in that particular report. And it was some sadness, Mr. Chairman, when the last Chief Commissioner then resiled from the view of the Commission, actually resiled from it. So to argue now about the Commission in the way that we are from this side of the House is a matter of some sadness to me. Mr. Speaker, the changes in Part 1 of this Act really are very cynical. And I want to expose that in the calls I will take on this particular bill. And I want to talk first about Clause 5 and the new subclause 7, where it transfers, this clause transfers the monitoring and evaluation functions for social sector programs to the Families Commission. So here are the monitoring and evaluation functions, which are really mainline state organisation functions, to be taken up by the organisations that are letting contracts. But here they are being transferred to an independent commission, a second-tier independent commission, and to do it in that particular way, it's really quite cynical. Much of the approach taken here, Mr. Speaker, is well known. I think the strategy is well known. It's an old strategy that you can tie down an organisation so much in prescribing its work that it's not really germane to its goal, that it's unable to do the very purpose for which our Crown entities of this type were established. Can you imagine if we did that, Mr. Speaker, to the Children's Commission? And it would disable it from actually carrying out its functions. But the changes here in the new Clause 7b actually will tie down that commission and by simply being a monitoring and evaluation commission, taking that role that ought to belong to those agencies that are actually letting the contracts, understand why they let it out, etc. That's what they are there for. So the cynicism is dripping with cynicism, the decisions. The National Party really never supported the Families Commission when it was first established. It never did. It didn't do it. It didn't support it in the early stages as well when we were setting up the commission. And if it had its own way, it would close it down tomorrow. But it has a coalition partner that is an advocate for this commission. And I don't think the Honourable Peter Dunn has fully realised how these changes actually denuded this commission from doing the very work that he advocated for, and in conjunction with Helen Clark, when she was Prime Minister, developed this particular commission and gave it the resources and the responsibility over time to develop that particular role. And it's completely at odds with the role of the commission of this type. And here, this minister and this government is to the back door denuding this commission. We can look then at Clause 6, Mr. Chairman. The minister knows, and the sector outside know, the sectors outside know that the major strength of the Families Commission is its ability to advocate for the interests of all New Zealand families. and to do that based on its consultation with New Zealand families of every type. It's based, Mr. Chairman,
Dr. Rajin Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And based on its examination of the research that's available, and based on its examination of current programs and the effectiveness, and what advice it might give, and what position it might take. So here we are. That advocacy function was its particular strength. And in Clause 6, there is an advocacy function, but it is confounded and denuded of its real power by loading onto the Commission, as 6 subparagraph 3 does, a requirement to produce an annual family status report. Now, this is something that comes out of mid-air, the idea. Because one of the seminal pieces of work, and one of the repeated pieces of work that the Ministry of Social Development does, is producing the social report. The social report has been produced, Mr. Chairman, over a period of time, based on a lot of data and with a lot of subcategories to it. It's a wonderful piece of work, a world leader. And anybody reading this can understand how powerful this work is. Now, that's been either stopped from being published or published very, very rarely now. And in its place, Mr. Chairman, this particular social report, and here's the first one from the Families Commission. So here is the Families Commission redoing the work. Now, I've read this. Much of what this first report does is beginning to tell us about how to define family and importance of families, things like that, and giving us the demographic data. That information, Mr. Speaker, was put together in an expensive and major founding document for the Families Commission. All that data currently exists. So here we are, we're doing it. And it's cynical because this is not going to add anything to the life of any New Zealand family or children at all. So here we are. So Clause 6 does that. So here we have, Mr. Speaker, 2 of these provisions that really say to me that changes proposed in these 2 clauses are cynical. It is trying to do something to the Families Commission that is unnecessary. And it now has risks the Families Commission even existing in such a way. And the other clauses, I'll come back and speak to those, Mr. Speaker, because they also add to this cynical approach to trying to destroy a commission which was never supported. And here is the Minister not able really to tell us why these changes are important. Now, we've gone through Select Committee. We've tried to find the kind of reasons behind these changes. And in fact, there wasn't much there. The argument for these changes is not compelling. There's a huge resources bound up in the Ministry of Social Development, and to take the social sector evaluation responsibility and base $3.5 million or so on it and say they will now do that and the state sector will only evaluate the programs it lets out. Now, what is that about? Because this is not setting up an independent commission of the type, this is the type of Crown entity. We have developed the system of 3 types of Crown entities. This is the middle type, not like the Children's Commissioner, but it has some arm's length from government, but it is independent. It is able to do its own thinking. And by circumscribing its role in this particular way, and other clauses will show as well in a minute, that actually says to me that this government has no appreciation for this commission, has never really supported it, Mr. Chairman, it does not show any real understanding of the work of the Commission, is really now politicizing it beyond belief. And we will talk about that as well, because that politicization of this Commission is also painful to watch, Mr. Chairman, because there is no need for it. It should have been a Commission that would serve governments forever in New Zealand, serve New Zealand families forever in New Zealand. But for short-term gain, this Minister has reduced the effectiveness of this Commission by loading these kinds of responsibilities onto it and others in this particular bill and destroying its ability to do that. Now, I can't see, Mr. Chairman, how the Honourable Peter Dunn can actually support this, because it is the death knell of this Commission. And we're now compelled to say, well, is this the best way of doing this? Ought we not to have a Ministry for Children and really function on that? Ought we not to strengthen the Children's Commissioner? And would that not be a better way of doing it, Mr. Chairman? Because that is where the energies of this side of the House will go, so that we can produce good evidence to inform good policy as we move forward. Now, Mr. Chairman, I want to move to talk about clause 7. And here also, Mr. Chairman, there is more. Thank you, Mr.
The Honourable Chester Borrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to acknowledge the contribution of the previous speakers who have spoken